Hi everyone, I am Kelly. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you've been here before. This is the video, the second one for the Quilters Challenge 2026. And the challenge is from Michelle of Bits and Pieces Quilting. So, let's see what she has to say.
Hi, I'm Michelle from Bits and Pieces Quilting, and I am thrilled to be taking part in the Quilters Circle Challenge. And today, my challenge for all of those in the Quilters Circle Challenge is to use a piece of your very favorite fabric. I have a few pieces. It's going to be a hard choice, but there are a few that I am just so reluctant to use because I love them so much. So this is my challenge, and I'm really interested to hear from you as to why the fabric is your favorite, and if you have any memories to share about that fabric, where you got it, what attracted you to it in the first place, and why you've been holding on to it for this time. And how long have you been holding on to it? I know what piece I'm going to use because I'm going to respond to my own challenge, but I'm so keen to see what you're going to do. Thanks, friends. It's been fun working with you, and I look forward to seeing your challenge results.
My favorite fabric to use is called grunge. I've used it a ton. It is very soft, lovely, easy to work with, and there is a gazillion colors. I'm just trying to show you this little distressed area here on the light fabric. It doesn't show up as well as on the dark ones, but that's basically what it is, a distressed looking fabric. I will get the purples and it'll show more. I had to go and buy this fabric because I do not have any grunge left. So you can see here on the purple, the camera's washing it out a bit and making it look more blue than it really is. But you can see the distressing a little bit better. I've used this for whole quilts before, as part of a quilt with other fabrics. I've used it for binding. So I will link a few of my videos in the description box, and then you can see what I mean. The project I'm going to make is a baby quilt with this free pattern. Quilting Wemple. Paige Lisowski is the designer. My printer's kind of sucky on yellow printing. Quiltingwemple.com. I'll put that link in my description box too, so you guys can see it. So I have to make a whole bunch of half square triangles. To make the half square triangles, the instructions say to take the wrong side. You can definitely tell, it's hard on camera, but this is the right side, this is the wrong side. And they want you to draw a line from corner to corner and then sew 1/4 inch on either side of the line. That is pretty standard practice for making a half square triangle. I like to have a sew line, so I have one of these long skinny Fawns and Porter rulers, and I line up the yellow dot, the yellow line on one corner, and I line up the other yellow line on this corner. Let me scoot the camera just a bit so you can see that better. It's hard to tell with a clear ruler, but line that up there, and then I'm going to take a pencil and just do a very light line all the way down that side. And just to make it easier on myself, I will flip it around and do the same thing from the other way. Like so. It washes out. It'll be fine. Plus, which I'm going to sew on in a minute, so it doesn't matter. So, then you take all your marked squares. Whoops, sorry for bumping the camera. So, once you have your line or lines drawn, as the case may be, pair this up with a colored square, right sides together. Get them all straight. I like to pin just to make sure nothing's shiggling around. So I'll put one in here. And one in here. Yep. And I'm going to sew down each line and then cut from corner to corner across the middle, and I will have 2 half square triangles. So I'm going to do that with all of the matching color, background, color, background. And I will chain piece to sew them. So I'll show you that momentarily. I drew some lines on the back of the lilac-y colored one just so you could maybe see it better, and you'll be able to see the stitching better. So what I mean by chain piecing, I have a little piece of fabric in there just to make sure the thread doesn't go all snaggly. And I'm lining the needle up to one of my drawn lines. And just sew along like this. Be back in a second. Now I'm coming down to the end of my sewing line, so I'm going to line this one up, the line on this side, because I can sort of like slot them in diagonally kind of. So as I come off that one I just sewed, I'll line up the line on the next one and just keep on going like that. Now let me get into here a little bit so I can cut the other one off. The back. Okay, so there you can see relatively good that there is one line of sewing. So I have to feed this one back in and do the other line. That's all you got to do. Pretty simple. I've got a pile of these half square triangles sewn together now. The next thing to do is cut them in half. So I'm going to get a few done. It's fairly simple. Any old ruler you want, line up the corner and the corner. And I don't know if you can really see this clearly, but my 1/4 inch mark on my ruler is right on one of my sewing lines. Hold it down securely. Cut across. Then you have 2 pieces, like so. Now you've probably noticed as I work along here that my interpretation of favorite fabric is not like what Michelle said in her little clip at the beginning of this video. But I don't just buy pretty fabric and save it and admire it and keep it sitting there on the shelf or in my closet or whatever. When I want to make a project, I find a pattern I like. I look through my stash to see if there's anything viable first of all, just in case. Sometimes I use stash and sometimes I buy stuff. Sometimes I just have to go buy stuff. So I don't save fabric. I know what I want. I buy it. I use it. If there are small little bits, they go in my crumb basket. And anything that's left over just goes in my stash. So this is my interpretation of favorite. My favorite fabric to use, not favorite fabric to admire and leave alone and not do anything with. The next thing to do is press these open. So, set your seam. The iron just warms it up a little bit. And then I just carefully peel it open like that. Kind of pat it down with my hands. Be careful here. That's a bias edge. You don't want to stretch it, so just sort of pat it down. I run my finger along it gently just to make sure it goes the way I want it to go. So leave me a comment and tell me if you buy fabric and admire it and don't use it. Or if you're like me, you just buy it and use it. Quilters are all different, and it's okay. Just set it on there like that. Let it get hot, and then leave it. Let it cool down before you move it. Now you can see there's these little ends, dog ears. I'm not touching those right now because we still have to square these blocks up to the size that the pattern requires. Right now they're a little bit too big. So once I have a bunch of them pressed, I'll do a bit of squaring up. That's all we really have to do. And then once I have all of these done, then we lay out the chevron pattern of the quilt. I have not yet decided which colors I want where in the pattern. I'm thinking of doing the darkest color in the middle as the middle chevron. But I'm not sure about that. I got to think about it. In order to square up one of these blocks, you need a square ruler like this one with a line across the diagonal for 45 degrees. And the ruler has to be bigger than the result of the square you want. Now the pattern says to square these up to 6.5 inches. So to do this, you make 2 cuts. The first is to get it square and straight. The second is to get it the right size. So what you need to do is line up that 45-degree line right along your seam. I tend to keep the darker side up here. It just sort of keeps me organized. So line that up, make sure that's exactly along there. And if you can see here closely, the 6.5 line is this black line right here. So down here, there is white fabric past the 6.5 line there. And over here, there is the lavender colored fabric past the 6.5 line on this side. So that is exactly what we want. It doesn't have to be passed by a lot, but it does have to be passed so that you don't have your block come out too short. So I'm going to scoot it down just a touch, because I have room to do so. Hold it securely. Put my weight on it. Double check to make sure. Good there. Not cutting it off. Perfect on the line. Okay. Cut. When you get up to the corner where the seam is, sometimes you have to go across with the rotary cutter a couple times. Let's see if that worked okay. Nope, not there. There we go. Okay. Now, flip it around 180 degrees. Now you make it the size you want it. So, again, line up on the diagonal, and this time, take your 6.5 inch mark and put it on the corner. And straighten it all up. So, right now I have the 45 angle going across the seam. I have 6.5 inches this way, and I have 6.5 inches that way. Perfect. Weight. Cut. Whoops. There's that edge again. There. Voila. One 6.5 inch half square triangle. I've got all the half square triangles sewn now, and just these ones left to square up. The pattern gives a very handy quilt top layout. Makes it easy to follow, which I've started doing. I decided to use the lighter of the colors in the middle just to make a color distinction better. Not that these are super close together, but to have the other 2 colors separated, I think it looks better. So I will do a bit more laying out, and we'll see how it looks. There is the layout, and I can sew the rows together. And 2 friendship stars on the side. I have to sew these 2 squares together like this. So because I pressed to the dark side, what I have been doing is lining them up like that. But then the seams look like that, bulky. So I take the top one and I fold it over just a little bit at the top, and then they nest together, and then I sew down. So now where they're sewn together, it looks a little wild up here. Easy to fix. Relatively close up here the corner, take little scissors or clippers or something and clip right up to the seam where you sewed. Do not cut that open, obviously. And then you can kind of do like this. Spread this with that way, this that way because it wants to go because it was sewed there. Give it a little press that way. Reinforce the little press that way. And I just hold it down, put the yarn on it for a minute. Then open up your seam, and I've been pressing them open, so I just take my finger, slide your fingernail in there, whatever, just open it up, press it down a little bit with your fingers, make it flat, and then get the iron on it. Make sure you don't catch this and flip it back over that way, so go carefully. Oh, my phone's going. Did you hear the ribbit ribbit? That's my dad. Oh, and excuse me. Be right back. I just put that bit I sewed back here in its spot. So what I've been doing has been working. See how the points look? Meeting up nicely. So flipping over a little bit of the seam works just fine. The chevron rows are now complete and sewn together, so I just have to sew the whole thing together. Easy enough for 2 more seams. Quilt top is done. It measures 30 and a bit. I'm not quite to 31, but 30 for sake of measurement. And this way is a smidge over 36. So I have the backing ready to go, and now I just have to cut out the binding, which is this darkest of the purples. I'm using the light color for the backing. To get it big enough, I went from selvage to selvage across the width of fabric, just to have enough. And this way, from here to here, is 44 inches. More than sufficient. I'm going to cut the binding strips for the quilt now. I always do my binding at 2 1/4 inches wide. So I already have my ruler lined up, 2 plus 1/4 inch along the edge of the fabric, and a weight helps to keep it stable at the other end. The circumference of the quilt is such that I need 145 inches of binding, thereabouts. So 3 isn't going to be enough. So I'm going to cut 4 strips, and that should be just fine. So hold down carefully, slide your hand up, slide the rotary cutter up and across. Scoot the fabric down just a little bit. And voila, we have a strip. So I'll cut 3 more. The binding strips have to be sewn together to make a big long strip. So put your binding strips right sides together at a right angle. Be careful about that. Then take a ruler of some kind, and you're going to make a line across this way from corner to corner. And I'm going to use my white chalk pencil because it will show up on the purple. Like so. Now, so it doesn't move around. Oh, and as I bump it, duh. Okay, let's line that back up again. There we go. My bad. Okay. Put a pin in it over here. And a pin in it over here. And I'm going to sew across that line. And yes, I'm going to use purple thread. So I'm going to attach 2 together, and then attach the other 2 together, and then attach the whole works together, and then I got a big long strip. I have all 4 of the strips sewn together now, and I'm just pressing it in half. With the wrong sides together, so you have a nice looking binding to put around the edge of the quilt. I am setting up the label now, ready to go. Obviously, I'm not going to write on it because there's no baby yet. But this piece of backing, that's what I'm going to use. It's about 4 by 6.5. And I got some heat and bond. This is how I make my labels. So it is lined up, but I'll do it later. I'm just going to press the heat and bond onto the back of this piece. And I have some scraps here of the other colors that I'm going to border this with. Perhaps like maybe another blue, oops, another purple, pardon me, this plummy one over here, and maybe this one down the bottom, something like that. And then I will sew it by hand to the back of the quilt when the time comes. There. That is what I'm going to do. I took a Sharpie and drew on the paper side of the heat and bond. So when the time comes, I'll write all the information on the front, because I have fabric markers that are permanent. I just have to write down what I want, and then I press it and they stay. It's really hard to see the Sharpie through here, but I have a light box. You can also use a sunny window and then write on it. And then when that is done, I will sew all the borders on. I have cut these strips to be 2 inches. And when it's all bordered, then I'm going to tuck it underneath, give myself a seam edge, so I have a nice tidy edge all around, and I will sew it by hand. I'm probably going to wind up doing a video of me putting the label on the quilt and me making it up and everything, but for the sake of this video, this is now finished, and that is all I'm going to do for the moment. Thank you, everybody, and good challenge, Michelle.